Well, I've welcomed our live audience, so I want to welcome our YouTubers again, just to make sure that we know you're out there. And there's more of you all the time, so really appreciate the upward trend that we're experiencing there. So today we're on step 11 of our 12 steps to spiritual recovery, and we are on the power of stillness. And I think I will make this the last of this series, even though we have 12 steps. The 12th step is to remember to do the previous 11. So to facilitate that, what I've done is posted them on our website. You can see that right on the opening page. There's a link to the 12 steps to spiritual recovery. And I have also included on most, I'm not completely done with it yet, but on most of the steps I've included the same message that you see on the back of your bulletin as a link to that, to each of the 12 steps, actually 11. But if that's okay with all of you, because all you have to do is go back on it. The reason I didn't think I'd go over the 12 is you probably won't do it anyway, so let's get on with something new. 12 lessons is quite a long haul, to do. And it's not really intended to be something to beat ourselves over the head with. It's just simple reminders. Some people will find this kind of thing very helpful, and others not so much. But it's just a good thing to offer different perspectives, different things, different ideas. And what I'm going to share with you today is, of course, the power of stillness. It's, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, one of the most important lessons that we can get. The whole unity thing was exciting to me from day one, but I didn't really understand it until I learned how to be still. And in the unity literature, you'll see the word silence with a capital S all through the literature. In the old days, they don't do it much anymore. But all of the early teachers encouraged the student to go within and to find that secret place of the Most High, as the psalmist called it. And Jesus talked about it too. He said, go into your inner room, your closet, shut the door, pray to the Father who is in secret. And that should mean just one thing. Unfortunately, it has come to mean other things, but to pray to your Father who is in secret is to find your own center, to find your spiritual source. And when you do find that, your whole concept of God changes. God is not an old man in the sky. We've covered that pretty thoroughly. And even the word God, I think, can be misleading because of the training that we've had using that word. Somebody's acting arrogant, we might say, who do they think they are, God? And it's this bigger than life picture. But in truth, God as spirit is our life. It's the very essence of our being. And I think one of the problems most people have when they're trying to become still is they're looking for something that probably doesn't exist. That is a concept, an image that we pick up along the way. How do I commune with the Father? What am I thinking about when I'm trying to make that contact? And what it amounts to is we're simply learning to become aware of that life energy that is in us. And as we touch that with our minds, it becomes more real to us as we practice that presence. But we never encounter a being. We're not looking for a being. We're not looking for the voice of a being. When we talk about the still small voice, we're talking about a feeling, a knowing. And it's not something that comes and just blows your world apart. It's like a little valve is turned on, and the energy in your whole being increases. You become more aware of it. And you can have realizations that are very revealing. And then you can lose it. You can lose it for days, for weeks, for months. And you find it difficult to get back to that place. And it's very frustrating. A lot of people have had one experience in their life, one spiritual awakening in their life, and that's all it took. That's why the whole near-death thing is so interesting to me, because it's very similar. A person can be pronounced dead for 2 minutes, but their whole life changes. They're changed at depth because they experience something that is present, but they have not seen until that moment. And it blows them away. And they say it takes that couple of minutes, having that experience takes about 7 years to be able to integrate that into normal daily life. And I understand that because the experience I had was not a near-death experience. It was a spiritual awakening. But when it occurred, it was unlike anything I was ever expecting. And I don't know how I had the experience other than I was open and receptive to it. Something in me said, there's more, keep pursuing, keep looking, keep trying to be still. And the day I had my most profound awakening, I was very frustrated. I was angry. I was angry at God because I said, why, God, would you give me this aspiration, this vision, and make it so dang difficult to experience? And it's like, why would God do that? And the answer is God doesn't do it. God just is. We're the ones having to hone in on what that isness is. And so we're having to retrain ourselves. And that's something that cannot be explained to anybody. That's why it's so frustrating to talk about it but not be able to give it to somebody, to pass it on. But if I had not had that experience, I couldn't have done ministry, because it became, God was no longer a theory. And I actually stopped calling it God. I began fairly early in my life to call it the creative life force, because that's really what it is. It's a creative power in us, knows how to operate the cells and the heart and the lungs and all that stuff. But it also knows how to inspire, knows how to open our minds to dimensions we've never experienced before. It's intelligent. It's not a being, it is being with a capital B. It's energy. But it communicates, knows how to talk to us in a way that we get, in a way that we understand. And by talking to us, think of it this way. You look out the window, you see the sunshine. The sun will talk to you if you go out and stand in it. It will reveal itself to you through experience. But it's not talking, but it's communicating, and you know what it's saying. You have a good sense of what the sun does just by exposing yourself to it. And I think that's why some cultures, like ancient Egyptians, saw the sun as God, saw that as the center of the universe. Because there's a lot of ways we can make that relevant. But if we would say the sun spoke to me, we would know it was not in a voice. It's in direct revelation. It's telling you. It's light, it's heat, And of course, we don't know, just stepping into it, we don't know all of what is in it. But that's the kind of communication that we're talking about. We are working to put ourselves in a position where instead of stepping outside in the sun, we're stepping into the awareness of God. And that energy is pushing in upon us all the time, and it speaks to us. Again, not in a voice, but by direct impression. That's why we emphasize it's intuitive. It's not intellectual. What I'm doing right now is intellectual. I'm talking, I'm trying to express an idea. And I'm having to use words, and there are no words to describe it. So we use words as references. Here's how to think of it. Here's how to approach it. The mainstream Christian will get on their knees, they'll look up to heaven, close their eyes, fold their hands, and pray in that way to beseech an old man in the sky or a being out there someplace. We would not step outside and get on our knees, fold our hands, and pray to the sun to give itself. Don't have to. That's its nature. And if we would think of God in the same way. So here I am expressing intellectual ideas to perhaps get our minds in a place where we can think of God in that way, where we're just opening ourselves to this energy that is pressing in upon us at all times. Okay. So step 11 is I set aside quality time daily to know the presence of God through quiet meditation. Let's say these words together. I set aside quality time daily to know the presence of God through quiet meditation. To think that you are always in the presence of God and there's no cost except attention to experiencing the creator of the universe, to experiencing the presence, the source of all life, the source of your being. The only thing it costs is your attention. Another lifetime ago when I lived in Texas, there was a radio ad that Red and the Boys, it was a beer ad, I think. But they were so broke they couldn't even pay attention, according to them. In unity, we say whatever gets your attention gets you. And so what we are doing when we go within is giving God our attention. I don't know what you are. I don't know how to experience you, but here I am. I'm open and receptive to how you want to speak to me. And we don't necessarily use words like that, but we use that attitude. Just like when you step into the sun. Give me what you are. We don't have to ask for it. It's doing it. And it gives and teaches without our asking. So there's a well-known story from the Old Testament, from 1 Kings 19:11 through 12, if you want to look it up. It places the prophet Elijah on a mountain in the wilderness, and 4 things happen. First, a great wind blows so hard that it smashes rocks. It says the Lord is not in the wind. Then there's a mighty earthquake, but the Lord is not in the earthquake. Next, there's a great fire, but the Lord is not in the fire. And finally, there's a still small voice, and this is the voice of the Lord. This is a pretty interesting story, that you've got a writer that is, writing that far back that makes these comparisons. We all know what, we have televisions and we watch hurricanes, the aftermath of hurricanes and tornadoes. I grew up in the Midwest where tornadoes were a way of life. And they're pretty terrifying and very powerful. when we think of the power of God, that would be on one level a good comparison. Very powerful hurricanes, tornadoes. But the Lord is not in the wind. There's an earthquake. Have any of you experienced an earthquake? I never have. I would like to, from somewhat of a distance, of course. But I think that'd be kind of fun. I don't want to be in a building, but anyway, we have all seen the aftermath of earthquakes. They're very strong, very powerful. They knock down the biggest, best buildings that we can put up. But the Lord's not in the earthquake. It's not that kind of power. Then there's fires. And I know we've all been exposed to those. If nothing else, we've seen the smoke, we've seen the plumes where we are, or we have smelled it as it blows in from California. We know what the power of fires. We've seen thousands of acres consumed in fire. But the Lord's not even in that, according to this story. The Lord is in the still small voice. So it's a way of driving the point. What are we looking for? We're looking for something that will come and blow away all of our problems, something that will overcome all of our problems. And what the moral of the story is that it's not in external forces. It's not in something outside of yourself. It's in that still small voice. That place where we go within ourselves, and it's hard to sort through that sometimes, to get through it, because we've got earthquakes going on, we've got fires going on, we've got tornadoes blowing away, all in our thinking. We've got to still all those things. We've got to calm down and get to the point where we have that larger picture, we get that larger sense. And I think a visualization like stand on a beach and look out at the ocean. I love doing that. I don't do it too often, but I've done it many times in my life. And it's very calming, as long as there's not a hurricane, of course. So the story calls our attention to a quiet power, a still small voice that remains when the brute forces of nature pass. This is the voice of the Lord of our being, that quiet inspiration that can become our greatest assurance in times of uncertainty. If you've got something going on in your life, and I think probably all of us do, getting to know you all pretty well, just the fact that you're a human being, we're going to have issues. We got things going on all the time. And we're probably all doing this thing of trying to figure out how to get around it or get through it or deal with it. And that's a good part of the thing that we want to do, but not first. We want to find our center of power first. We want to go within ourselves and find that still small voice, find that assurance within ourselves that there's a bigger thing going on here. There's something larger. There's a greater power greater than myself, working through me right at this very moment. 2 chapters worth reviewing, if you have not done so recently, from the book Lessons in Truth. Secret Place of the Most High and Finding the Secret Place. These chapters present the classic unity view of the value of meditation and how to practice it. And I have copied those 2 chapters and put them on our website. And I will put the links for the YouTubers, for you YouTubers, on the description part of the presentation today. Put the link there for these 2 chapters. I would recommend that you just go through these again, because these 2 chapters became kind of a lifeline to me at one point. It's very confusing, very frustrating to try to experience this presence of God as an inner experience. But Emily Cady had a real good way of putting it into words, of explaining what we're looking for and how to position our minds to start receiving. And so I'm going to share with you some of the statements that she makes in these 2 chapters. She suggests that we sit down, be still as we can, find a comfortable place, get your body in a comfortable position. Not many people recommend lying down, because what happens when you lie down with your eyes closed, sometimes you go to sleep. We don't want to go to sleep. We want to be awake. But she says, use this statement, you abide within me, you are alive there now. You abide within me, you are alive there now. And as we speak words like this, we're thinking of this presence. And you can say to yourself, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'm addressing you, my source. Think of it that way. Again, in the same way you would think of the sun, you don't speak to it necessarily, but you experience it. So that's what we're looking for. You abide within me, you are alive there now. Just to calmly speak these words and direct them to that inner presence. You are all power. Again, we're speaking to that living beingness, that energy, creative life force in us. You are all power. And where's the mind going? Is it trying to solve problems, trying to get some more answers, which is power? Or are you allowing yourself to just center in that within me is all power? And you're addressing this presence directly. You are all power. You are the fulfillment of all I desire. And this means a lot to me because when I had my spiritual awakening, I thought there's nothing I need beyond this. This is all I want. And I have drifted away from that. But in that moment, it was like I could not possibly ask for anything more than that experience. Absolutely indescribably beautiful. I've never felt so fulfilled in my whole life. And all of the possessions I had, which weren't that meant much at the time, didn't mean anything. Human relationships didn't mean a whole lot. I mean, they mean something, but not as much as what's going on when you touch that center of power. It doesn't mean that we give up all of our material side by any means. But fulfillment, if you notice, doesn't come from acquiring things. We're looking for a sense that I'm one with wholeness. I am whole now. I'm free now. You are the fulfillment of all I desire. So in other words, you're presenting yourself on an altar as an empty vessel. That you are the one I seek now. You're the fulfillment of all I desire. And that is absolutely true. That nothing can be greater than this presence in whom we live and move and have our being. Your innermost presence now radiates from the center to circumference of my being. This is a visualization, to see like a light shining from within yourself, shining out into all of your affairs. You have material desires, see that presence shining out into all, drawing to you that which is for your highest good and dissolving that which is not. Your innermost presence now radiates from the center to circumference of my being. We experience happiness from the inside out, not from the outside trying to grab it and bring it in. And that's where most of us fall short, because we have goals, we have aspirations, we feel when we reach that, we'll be happy. We reach it and we're never quite happy, never quite there. And so just to envision this light shining from within out, Don't throw away your material possessions. Let the light shine on them as well. It's not either or. We have physical bodies, we have physical needs, we have physical desires. It's part of the package. But Jesus said to seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added. That makes perfect sense when you're looking at it from this perspective. Your innermost presence now radiates from the center to the circumference of my being. I give thanks that you hear and answer me, that you now come forth into my visible world as the fulfillment of my desire. That's a letting go and a trusting. And by the time you get through these statements, if you decide to use them, you should be peaceful, you should be centered. And then you go about your day, you go about your business, and let things unfold as they will, and they will. But that is the point of the spiritual journey, the spiritual path we're on, the spiritual education that we're undergoing, is learn how to be in your life successfully. That's really what it's all about. It's not giving up things, it is being present. It's actually gaining presence, gaining the awareness that God is your source right now. Katie suggests, like the sunbathing bird, we passively wait while keeping our mind actively alert to the stirring of spiritual energies. This is Elijah's still small voice. We can neither describe it nor give it to another. Each person must seek until we find this inner power. With practice and with our growing insights, we begin to look forward to our times of quiet. We come to a true appreciation for the power of stillness. Meditation, times of quiet, should never be a labor. You should never have to say to yourself, I better do that. It's like when I work out on our Bowflex. We have a Bowflex exercise machine we've had for years, and I have to make myself do that because it's not natural. Exercise is not natural. Walking and all that is. But getting on a workout machine is not. So I have to make myself do it. Well, you don't want that same attitude toward meditation, toward being still. And if it is that way at first, just keep going, and pretty soon, the more your mind opens to the presence, the more you actually look forward to doing this. Nobody will have to tell you to do it or remind you. All right. Is that enough? We'll pick up a new subject next week, only it'll be tied into all of this somehow, so we appreciate you coming out. Thank you for watching this week's program. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with others. We want to reach as many people as we can, and we appreciate your help. If you'd like to help support this ministry, just click the donate card at the top right-hand corner of your screen. Your financial support means a lot to us. We have many subjects in our video lineup, so feel free to take a look. If there's a topic you don't see and would like me to address, just put it in the comment section. I'd love to know what's on your mind. To subscribe to this channel, simply click our logo. Thanks again for your interest in independent unity, and have a wonderful week.